Hello and welcome to the Addicts Anonymous podcast. I'm your host, Jim R. Today's episode 110, and we're going to be interviewing Bill M. How you doing, Bill?
I'm doing good, man. I appreciate having me on, Jim.
No, I really appreciate you coming. So we're going to talk about a little bit about what you do after, because I know you have your own podcast, but let's not forget to talk about that. And for now, let's dive in and talk about your childhood.
Yeah, man. My childhood is I had a really good childhood. Growing up. My name's Bill again. I'm from Philadelphia. I guess I would say the area I grew up in was more middle class. I had good parents. Parents were together, very close family, loving family. I think the only thing I can really think was that my parents were they were very good people. Like, so they weren't aware of what was going on because they were never really into really any of that stuff. They drank. My whole family drank, but when it came to
When you say
anything
drank,
else,
you mean like socially, like a glass of wine?
social drank. Yeah, they drank beer.
Okay.
They would drink, like my dad would probably drink a couple beers every day, like get home from work, drink a couple beers, but nothing abused, nothing that sticks out that would say that they were alcoholics, in my opinion, when I was young. You know what I mean? Like, nothing sticks out.
When you were, as you got older, did you think they had an issue drinking every day, or like just good old fashioned dad, like they used to be, have a couple beers, work hard, play hard, go to sleep?
Yeah, that was my parents. That was my dad, at least. And it wasn't anything out of the normal because my whole family was like that. And then my friends' parents were like that. So it wasn't anything out of the ordinary when it came to drinking. You know, they were able to go to work every day. He wasn't like missing work because he couldn't wake up. And he would do everything for me. Take me. I have two little brothers. I'm the oldest of three. I have two twin little brothers. And they make sure that we're at sports, make sure that we're at our games, make sure we're at school. Very disciplined when it came to, our school, make sure that we go, and sports in general. Good family. So there's nothing I can say about them that I guess I was more resentful of the structure rather than anything. That's where I feel like I went off. I always thought my friends had more, they had an easier, more lenient life.
More freedom.
More freedom. Yeah. And it really started pretty early for me when I started to go, against everything that they wanted me to do. But my childhood, man, like vacations in Wildwood. I think you said before you're from Jersey.
Yep.
We'd have vacations. My grandparents had a condo in Wildwood. You'd be down there every summer. I had a really good childhood.
You're one of the few. I said you're one of the few. When I interview a lot of people, it's mostly some stuff going on. I've had, I'd say from my experience, I think I've said this before, maybe 5% of the people I spoke with had a good childhood, maybe less. Because I've obviously I announced we're episode 110, so I've done a lot of interviews, over 100. And it's so sad, some of the stories you hear. So that's good that you grew up in a good environment.
Yeah, I did. And, like I said, I try to think about it all the time. I try to figure out where that point was when I kind of went a different direction than everybody else. And the only thing that I could, my memory from being being a kid is not very good. I don't remember much, I most of it's hearing what other people said, not really. I don't think it's my memory. I think it's stories that people tell me. And it seems like it's about the time I started to, because I have two twin brothers that are 4 years younger than me. And I'm sure now that I have my own kids that they had a lot more attention than I did. It went from getting all the attention to probably almost none.
Yeah.
Or at least in my mind, none, so.
And subconsciously,
that may have something.
No, I'm sorry, you go.
That's what subconsciously, that may have something to do with it,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I don't know where that point was, but I know I was a very rebellious child.
Do you remember your first act of rebellion? Like around what age? Like approximately?
Dude, I would say it started in about sixth grade.
So fairly young.
I was young. Yeah, I was young. I started smoking cigarettes and stealing them out of like my dad's pack. Like we'd pick us up from school, and he'd leave his cigarettes in the car, and he'd have to wait for my little brothers. So I'd steal like four out of there. And then it started to escalate to weed. Started smoking weed at seventh grade. Um, Seventh grade started to drink. I had my first Percocet and Xanax in seventh grade summer. So going into eighth
Let me
grade.
ask you a question. You mentioned weed. So this is just a question on your opinion. Do you, because I don't know. I don't think weed is actually a gateway drug. I think it's just the easiest thing that kids could get first. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like say right now that for some reason the easiest thing to get was a Percocet. Most kids, I think, would start with that. It's just about who they ask in school and what's easiest to access. For some reason, forever, it's been weed. It's just been the easiest thing to access. What do you think about that? Do you think weed's the gateway drug or it's just the first thing people get?
I don't think anything's a gateway drug, in my opinion. I think that, so I've been sober now for going on 6 years. And
Congrats.
my main, like when I look at my addiction, most of it's alcohol. Now I don't like to just say that because like during my binges, there was everything involved. So like whatever was put in front of me, I was doing. But the thing I needed to stop was drinking because it was okay in society, right? So the way I look at it is what's okay in your group that is okay with the people that you're around, right? So to me, weed was in the music. It was cool. It was accepted by like the majority of the people around me. You weren't looking at people that were smoking weed as like this crazy person. Like when you're in health class, you hear people doing drugs like cocaine and stuff, and you're like, I'll never touch that stuff. That looks crazy. It didn't have that stigma on it. And I didn't even know when I took a Percocet and the Xanax, I didn't even know what that was. I was just with older kids and they were doing it. So again, I think it was just, I don't look at gateway as a thing. I look at like, why is it that you're doing it? Right. So like you start smoking, you start making mistakes, you start doing things, and then it drowns out the why. And you kind of forget why you're doing it. And I think it just escalates from there. So it's not really the drug. It's just, I think anything's a gateway. You know what I mean? Like I think if whatever you can get your hands on that's pushing down the feelings of why you're doing it to begin with is the gateway.
Gosh, do you remember how you felt the first time you ever did a drug?
You know what, dude? I don't, to be honest with you. Like it wasn't something that at that point I didn't have many regrets. I didn't have many things I was stuffing down yet. So like I didn't do it for the feeling. I did it for the look from my peers. As you can tell, I've always looked a lot older. I've always kind of carried myself a little bit older. So I hung out with older kids. So like in my neighborhood when I was 12 or 13 years old, I was hanging out with people that were 18, 19 years old. And to me, they were cool, right? But looking back, I'm like, man, it was whatever. I don't know what they were doing with me. But to me, it was more of I felt weird because I didn't like it. I felt like it took me out of who I was, and I felt kind of in a panic mode, I guess. Like kind of always in a shell. I didn't know all the people around me. So I don't really remember. Now, alcohol, on the other hand, the first time I really drank in high school, I knew I wanted to do that forever.
Hmm.
Like that.
Like I say in the big book, you had arrived.
I did, dude. I arrived. I was always, so like people used to, my nickname in high school was always Dirt.
Dirt.
Dirt. Dude, I would always do things that I thought were funny because everybody else would laugh, but like I was just making a fool of myself constantly. So I was always that guy that would do anything. So you could get me really to do anything, and I would do it. And it escalated pretty quickly, And the other, like, I was terrible to women. I treated women terribly. I basically used them as a way to a crutch to make myself feel better. So like I kind of pushed them down. To make myself feel better. It was always their fault. And, um, so I don't really remember how it felt, but I do know I was like, this is what I want forever. Because I was the life of the party. It gave me courage. It gave me a way that I felt like I was expressing myself. But in
Do you
reality, I was just trying to fit in.
do you look back and do you actually think you really were the life of the party, or is that how it felt at the time?
Uh, Again, man, my memory is so bad that I look back at all of that and I'm like, is it my memory or is it stories? That because people talk like now I live in South Carolina now. I moved here in like September and I just went to one of my best friend's weddings back in Philly and seen everybody for the first time in a long time. And everybody has these stories about me, about dirt. And it's like, are these really my memories? Did these things happen? I don't recall. I would like back then I definitely thought I was, but I was probably just being laughed at and like a fool. You know what I mean? Like I don't, especially at the end of it. In the beginning, I was always way more fun, but at the end, I was definitely just being a fool.
Yeah. So was it easy to hide all this from your parents?
Nah, dude, I didn't even try. I didn't even try. So so my high school, I went to a Catholic school, made it through football season. I got kicked out of the Catholic school. I had to go to a public school. It's called George Washington High School. If it's terrible high school, you would smoke in the hallways. You didn't have to go to class. You could walk in, walk out. And I ended up dropping out junior year of high school. And I won't even hide it, dude. Like I didn't think I had a problem because, like I said, my main thing was drinking. So like I never had a problem because I knew so many people that were doing heroin and all these other things. And I'm like, I don't have a
No.
problem. I'm not like that guy.
Yeah,
You know,
that's such a typical addict thing to say is, oh, I'm not like you, I'm different.
I'm better. Yeah.
Yeah, you're doing this, I'm not doing that. I felt the same way. Every time I talk to addicts, they're like, well, yeah, I felt different at the time because I wasn't doing this or I wasn't doing that. I think it's funny when I hear that because
Oh yeah.
that's what makes me believe that it is a disease, is because we all have so many of the same symptoms of feelings, of things like that, of thoughts. We are all the same in that regard. That's why I kind of look at it as because I'm in the middle. Is it a disease? Is it not a disease? But when I hear things like that, it makes me think more in line with a disease, because so many people say the same exact thing,
Yeah.
literally the same thing.
Yeah. And I learned through the program, dude, that like it's no different. No matter what you're doing, whatever your addiction is, like I don't even view eating disorders or anything as much different. Like I view all of it as you're drowning out the same thing that I'm drowning out. We're just drowning it out a different way. Like I think that we've just found a very unhealthy way to deal with whatever it is that's going on in our mind. And I also think because most people I know do that get sober, even before they were sober, are very smart or creative people. And they're almost afraid to express that creativity or express that individuality about themselves. Um, that they're more sucked into, I need to fit in. So they're more worried about like, we're more worried about like what everybody else thinks rather than what we think of ourselves. I know that was the case for me. Like I always worried too much about what Jim would think of me than what Bill thought of Bill.
Oh yeah, I was always doing stuff for show. I wanted to absolutely impress the people around me. Um, for me, I was definitely hiding a lot of insecurity. So I was a heavier. I mean, I'm heavy set now, not like I used to be. Now I've got, 15, 20 pounds to lose. But back then during school, there were times I was 60 pounds overweight. But yeah, and I think I was doing the same thing, hiding a lot of insecurities, trying to be the life of the party, trying to be the funny guy, the guy who got girls. I was always trying to impress people.
Yep, me too, dude. That you wake up, you lay in bed, you're like, damn, what did I do? And at the end of it, dude, like I wouldn't even remember what I did. So it was more like I'd wake up and whatever girl I was with at the time would be like, you know what you did? Don't even tell me. I don't even don't even talk about it. I don't want to know.
Yeah,
And that dwells on you, like when you just don't know, you gotta own all of it, which is the most painful part of getting sober, is owning it and uh, just knowing why you did the things you did
yeah,
is very painful.
absolutely. Absolutely. Admitting that you were insecure and that stuff like that it's a hard thing to do.
Yeah, it is, dude.
Yeah.
It, it it's hard. How long have you been sober for?
Right around 800 days, so a little over 2 years. I actually just checked the other day. I can tell you right now. 812 days.
That's awesome, dude. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much. I work hard at it. This is part of the thing I do to keep me sober.
This
Because
is a
of doing stuff
perfect way
like
to do
this.
it.
Say again?
Perfect way to do it.
Yeah, it keeps me busy all day and also do a lot of writing we were talking about before. But yeah, but you got 6 years. That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm going on 6 years. I think it was July like 24th.
Oh, that's our birthday. July 25th is Addicts Anonymous birthday. That's when we first started.
Really?
Yeah.
You should have saved this episode for your anniversary. It would have been mine too.
Yeah.
But I don't. I always forget how long. To be totally honest with you, like I had to ask my wife. I only got sober because I had another responsibility, and that was my son. So my son's 7 years old now, my oldest, and it wasn't about until he was 6 months old that I finally, you know, completely stopped. And if it wasn't for him, he'll never really understand. Maybe when he's older, how much he taught me rather than what I've been teaching him, dude. Because taking on responsibility for another human being is like the greatest gift that I've ever received, and it's something I needed.
Yeah.
And thank also my wife. She would always kind of put it in my head because her family deals with a lot of addiction. And I'm like, I don't need that stuff. I'm not like that. I can drink. First time I tried getting sober, I went thinking these guys were going to teach me how to drink, not how to live not drinking. So it lasted like 3 months, and then 6 months later, I had a couple rock bottoms there, a couple bad things happened to me, and then I finally, got fully been sober now forever. And I don't even the days. I just know I'm sober now. And it's not even part of my life anymore, man. Like I don't even. My wife drinks. I don't even like think about it. It's weird.
Yeah, it is weird. But what did you do? You dropped out junior year. What did you do when you graduated high school?
So I got my I ended up getting my GED, but when I dropped out, I was working under the Walt Whitman Bridge, the bridge from Philly the bridge from Philly to Jersey. Underneath, there's a port,
Mm-hmm.
and they delivered containers of meat from overseas, and that's where like all the meat gets delivered that you buy in your grocery store. And I would unload those containers that were coming off the ships by hand. They were like 60-pound boxes of frozen meat. You do it by hand for $26 a truck. And I was working with all like felons. And these dudes were like constantly on me, like, you don't want to do this your whole life. Da-da-da. I mean, I'm 16, 17 years old making $600-700 in cash a week. So to me, it was, amazing.
Yeah, it's a lot for a kid.
But the work was hard. You got paid for what you did. You didn't get paid for your time. You had to actually work, right? So they finally like talked me into it. Then the owner of the company signed off on getting my GED because I wasn't 18 yet. So I actually got my GED before my class graduated high school. And I started that summer in a small college. It's called CHI Institute for Criminal Justice. Don't know really why. It was just one of them things where everyone's like, you got to go to college to do this. Never really used it. I got into banking, and still somehow I was able to maintain that. Like I lost a few small jobs during it, but I still ended up becoming a licensed branch manager at a bank through, not until I got actually sober, but I did move up in companies while still drinking. So I got my investment license. Now I sell insurance and investment products. So I do financial planning.
Cool. So you started doing that young.
I did. Yeah, I got in the bank at 18 or 19.
It's awesome.
Yeah, and I fell in love because mainly I started to learn about money. And my parents were never really good with money. So I started to learn about money and understanding the whole financial world.
Yeah.
And that's really what, and I always liked helping people, so it was good for me because I was able to still help people throughout that journey. I still, help people with their finance, with all their retirement planning, college planning, and things like that.
That's cool. So when you first got your GED, you started moving up a little bit. How much were you still using?
I was a binge drinker, dude. So like Monday through Wednesday, I was just hungover. And then Wednesday night, I would go out like after work for a beer and then struggle to get to work Thursday, Friday. And then you wouldn't see me probably till Monday morning going to work. I'd just be up straight through and then hungover for 3 more days. So I didn't like wake up and drink, but like I wouldn't sleep either. You know what I mean? Like I'd just be up partying for 3 days straight sometimes. But it all started with the beer, the alcohol, and then 4:00 in the morning rolls around. That's like, how do I stay up? So then it was about staying up, and that's where I would find other substances to do that.
What kind of substances?
Mostly cocaine. Mostly, but whatever was in front of me.
That's the article I'm writing right now. It's about cocaine. It's amazing what they put in that stuff. Cement.
Oh yeah.
Kerosene, battery acid, drain cleaner. So much stuff goes into making it before it even, because that's what turns it white, because they're green leaves. So originally it's a greenish color, but once you start mixing all these chemicals and stuff, it gives it that white look, which it turns into like a hard paste. And then they sell that to the cartels that turn it into, they use that as the base to turn it into cocaine.
And then they cut it.
And there are numerous people along the chain that cut it. So say it's like 75% pure in Colombia. By the time it gets to us, it's like 20% pure.
Right. Yeah. And you always knew. Well, at least I did.
Me too. Oh yeah. When you were snorting it, because when you got the better stuff, you would say this is more cocaine in it.
Oh yeah, you would know.
That means the other stuff didn't have as much.
Yeah, you would know. And the other one towards the end of it was Molly. I loved Molly at the end.
That kept you up. I don't know if I ever did Molly, but I did ecstasy growing up. I don't know how much of the same, because I know ecstasy was supposed to be MDMA.
Yeah.
But then I also heard they kind of mixed cocaine and heroin to make ecstasy.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. I don't know whatever I was taking would keep you up for a good 2 days. I don't know what was in the capsule, but
so it had some kick to it.
They called it Molly.
Yeah, I never did Molly, or at least nothing that was ever sold to me as Molly. But I would have loved to try it. I tried everything. Not now, but back then I would have tried it. Like you said, you put it in front of me. I was lucky though that for some reason I was scared to death of heroin and crack because I knew that would kill me automatically. Because
me too, dude.
Yeah, I never do anything half-assed.
Those are the two things I never did. But outside of that, I've probably tried it. And I'm
Yeah,
kind of,
exactly.
and you know what, dude, I'm so grateful that I stopped when I did, because all the new pills that are out there, the fake Percocet, like the fentanyl,
Oh
like
yeah,
I already
it's
been,
the M30 pill. If you get a pill that says M on one side, 30 on the other, it's most likely pressed in Mexico, and it's got fentanyl in it. Fentanyl is, part of my language, fucking everything.
yeah, dude, it's not good. It's scary. I know a couple people that specifically one guy that I grew up with that was not into it at all. He just ended up getting it from somebody at the bar, and he died in his sleep that night. And it's scary, dude. You know,
Yeah,
it's scary. It
there's
could
a
be a first time
documentary.
user. What's
So,
that?
no, I was saying there's a documentary I was watching where this guy, he was selling fentanyl, and he said it's only 15% pure. And the interviewer asked him, if I took that, because I don't have a tolerance, I've never done fentanyl, would I die? He's like, yeah, absolutely. So just
Yeah.
from 15% strength, it's something that can kill you.
Yep. It's crazy. It's so strong, dude. I'm grateful that I did. Obviously got sober when I did.
Yeah, it's a new thing. So at what age did you recognize that you had a problem? When did you actually say, like, I need to get some help here. It's not working out.
So I am 30 now. I was about 23, about
So you were
23
young
years
when
old.
you realized.
I was young, and another thing I'm grateful for, I had a buddy. His name's Dan. He was actually my sponsor. He was so bad in high school, dude. Like he was, taken from his parents, his whatever. He got bad in high school, 16, 17, but he got sober at 19 years old, and he's been sober since. So, they say that there's a higher power, and that higher power definitely showed up to me randomly. And the craziest part, I was just sitting outside. I wasn't having a bad day. I didn't just have a bad day. I was literally like sitting outside my now wife. We were sitting outside of her parents' house, and I was like, I'm gonna text Dan. I need to stop. And I did, and he picked me up the next morning.
What was the reason?
Uh,
There was nothing that precipitated that.
just the whole life journey, but nothing in the moment did. Like I can't tell you why that popped in my head. Like something was trying to stop what was about to come, which ended up coming. Um, I ended up getting, because that's the stint that I did get sober for a couple months, and then I went back to it because I went to get help, as in I'm gonna go get help learning how to drink correctly
Hmm.
the first time. That was the first goal. I didn't actually go to stop drinking completely. I didn't see how that was feasible because everybody I knew drank. Um, so I didn't think you could live life like that. I didn't know how I was going to go fishing. I didn't know how I play softball. Like I was like, how would I do things if I don't have a beer in my hand? Everything I do is associated with this. Um,
I felt the same way when I went to rehab. I like that, those few days before I went, I was just like, what am I gonna do?
yeah,
Everything is, I'm drunk for everything. It's like
everything.
even stupid things like, am I gonna like TV anymore? Am I gonna watch the TV shows? Am I gonna do this? Am I gonna do that? Is it gonna be the same?
Yeah. How am I going to go sit at the beach?
Yeah.
Like the simplest things. That's how screwed up your mind gets, dude. Like
But it
when
also
you're
goes to
taking
show
these
you that
things.
drinking is built into the fabric of this country. Because, like
Mhm.
you said, almost anywhere you go socially, just start thinking of places, they drink.
Oh yeah.
It's, restaurants, birthday parties, gatherings where it's like, maybe a baby shower, little things like that. They drink in all types of stuff.
It's great. It's just so acceptable. It's socially acceptable. It is not seen as a problem. And for most people, I would say it's not. Like I don't look at people that drink and say that you need to stop. Like I'm not that guy. Like I don't think there's people I know that need to stop because of where it has taken them. But in my opinion, there's a lot more people. Maybe it's just because of who I interact and put myself in front of nowadays. that do handle themselves. Like they can have a beer with dinner and go home. Like they can do things and go home. They can go to work the next day, and they're not worried about, am I going to be able to wake up for work? Um, I do, in my opinion, that's most of the people I surround myself with now. I don't really associate, and I do think that has to do with like who I kind of manifest into my life. Like I'm not really connected to somebody that's going to be binge drinking all the time. Like we're not going to be compatible as really friends, so it doesn't really happen, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I do notice that the more I put out, the more people like me I do attract into my life at this point. Like my wife, she drinks, dude, and she doesn't like have a problem. She doesn't have to drink, like, but if we go to a wedding or something, she'll have a drink or, she doesn't, I don't
Yeah.
think she has a problem.
So what did you do to get sober when you decided at 23 you needed to call your friend? What did you do?
So I went the very first time, like I said, I started to go to a couple meetings with him. I went to like a big book meeting, I think was the first one. And then I kind of just fell off and was like, I could do this myself. Because life got really good, dude, for like 3 months. I was like, holy crap. Like it just got way too good quickly. I got engaged during that 3 months. Started actually drinking the day I asked my wife to marry me is when I started drinking again. And then things happen. I got my timeline could be a little messed up here because I don't know the exact dates of them, but I ended up getting arrested for aggravated assault, and it wasn't. Looking back at it, dude, I like to look at everything from the aspect of what part did I play so that I can get my life better. I never say it wasn't my fault because everything I see happening is my fault, and I try to fix it when it happens to me. Like I look at my life now today. Like if right now I'm sitting in my office and if a car came through this wall and hit me, I would have been like, I should have did this interview an hour later and I wouldn't have been sitting there. Like that's how I look at life nowadays. Cause I try to look at things. What could I have controlled in that situation? Obviously I can't predict that, but I like to look at it that way just so it helps me. It helps me be a better person. But I got arrested for aggravated assault, and there was a guy that lived in a duplex next to me, like a quadplex. So we shared a yard, and our doors were like facing each other. And it was like midnight. It was after a playoff hockey game. My son was like 6 months old, so I walked outside. I was having a cigarette before bed, and he had a bunch of people in the backyard, and he was selling drugs. So I said something to him like, dude, I have a baby in here now. You can't be doing this. Take it to the corner. And he snapped and he went in the house and he grabbed an axe and he came out and I tackled him and I hit him a few times. And his roommate came out, grabbed him and said he was taking him to his girlfriend's house. So I was like, whatever. My wife's sitting there, like, you gotta call the cops. You gotta call the cops. I'm like, I'm not calling the cops. I have work in the morning. He's gone. Let's go to sleep. And 6 or 7 in the morning, my door got kicked in and the police came in. They arrested me, my wife, and the guy upstairs because he went to the police and told them that we jumped him because he said a dog pooped in the yard. So we jumped him because a dog pooped in the yard. And we all got arrested. And I had to go all the way through court to hear not guilty because my deal was 6 to 10 years upstate. And I was like, I'm not taking that. Like none of this actually happened. What he's saying happened. Like I gave a statement and everything right after because they arrested my wife. It wasn't even a part of it. And he just made up this whole story to try to get us out of the apartment. And when the detectives came in Philly, what they do is and they told me this, the first person to call the police is the one that gets to press charges. So like there was no investigation. It was just what he said. And then I had to defend it in court. So that was kind of where I was like, I need to stop drinking because I look at the whole situation as, well, if I wasn't drinking, I wouldn't have been up at midnight. I wouldn't have been out there. And if I was out there, I probably wouldn't have punched them. I probably would have held them down. I would have been more there. I didn't have much to drink that night, but I was drinking. So I was obviously, I did things that I may not have done had I been sober. For a little bit, I blamed the world for that whole situation. But it wasn't long until I was able to accept it, move on. And finally, when I first, dude, it was weird. The first time I went to a meeting again, things started to happen. My issue was always with God. I don't know about you, but the whole God thing was like, there's no God, dude. All these bad things happen. There's no God. They always happen to me. No God.
Yeah,
Well,
I've had those feelings before.
so I was like, I'm not believing in that. So I was like, I'm going to erase that part of AA and use the rest of it. But these things were happening right in the beginning that I was like, it was like God was showing up and talking to me in these ways that I could not explain at all. And one specific thing that I remember is I was sitting, this is a story that's fairly new that I shared like publicly, because it's kind of crazy. But my sponsor, he would tell me all the time, go pray, go meditate. And I'd be like, all right. And then I'd get there to do it and couldn't do it. Which, if you think about the fact that I could not just close my eyes and sit there in a room by myself, it's not a good thing, right? You should be able to do that. So there's obviously things going on. So I finally did it. And it was at night. My wife was actually in the same room, but it was at night, it was dark. And middle of meditating, dude, like right from the beginning, my grandfather was there. Like he just came in the room and he passed away like 2 years prior as my mom's dad. And we used to play chess all the time. And he started to, there was no like words and there was no like facial, it was just a dull facial expression. And we were kind of communicating without words. It was like telepathic almost. And he was explaining life through chess. And because we would play chess when I was a kid. And he went through this whole thing, dude. And all I remember, I kept just saying, is this real? This isn't real. Like, I just remember saying that constantly, like, this is not real. How are you here? And he just kept explaining this chess. And then he disappeared and I, opened my eyes and I woke my wife up. I'm like, you'll never believe what, I was like, I don't know if I'm dreaming, what is going on, but I'm sitting up. So I'm like, I don't know how this is happening. And that changed my life, whatever that was, dude. And me and my buddy, if I have one that I did with my buddy, a podcast, it was good. I think I named it Addiction. It was one of the first ones I did. And the reason I shared it publicly is because he had almost the same story that I had. He's been sober for probably 7 or 8 years. He's been longer than me. And he had like the same story as his mom's dad. And he like stole stuff from her that was his. And he meditated and saw his grandfather. And that's when it made me share it because I thought I was crazy for a little bit or could not figure out what it was, like it wasn't logical. Whatever happened, it was not logical. And he shared this story. So I shared it. And we kind of were talking about it for a while. And it's like maybe it was just that higher power or God that, had to present it himself or itself, whatever it is, in a way that we would be able to recognize. So like it wasn't that it was my grandfather that was there. It was a higher power talking to me through a way that I could comprehend. Because like if whatever it is that God is or the higher power is showed up, it'd blow your mind probably, right? Like if something that you don't recognize, it's not familiar. And this was just a familiar thing that I could listen to because it was, somebody I loved and missed.
He was like used as an instrument of God.
Correct. Like it was my thoughts or whatever, whatever was going on, but it was a vision so that I could comprehend what was going on. That's what I think. That's how I've that's the conclusion I came up with that scenario. Like I don't think he showed up in whatever form into my bedroom, just started talking to me. Like maybe, but that's why I have the podcast called Dumbest Guy in the Room, because I don't know anything anymore, man. When I was drinking, I knew everything. I was always the smartest guy and I'd tell you everything. Now I'm the dumbest guy in the room and I'm not going to tell you if I'm right, wrong. I don't know. I don't know what happened that night, but it happened and it changed my life forever. So
That's all that matters, is that it changed your life.
Yeah, it was crazy, dude. I can't really explain it, but that was the moment that I stayed sober. That's when I knew I wasn't drinking again.
So how do you maintain your sobriety?
For a while, man, I'd still distract myself with family. I would still have to do things to distract myself. But now, I'd say in the last like 2 years, what I've been doing is focusing on small things, small habits, and turning bad habits into good habits. So looking at my life and saying, I don't like this, and changing that little habit. And then every day it's been getting better and better and better. So like you said that you were, a little overweight and whatever when you were, so was I. Like I was probably pushing almost 230, 240 a couple months ago. And I started the carnivore diet. So I changed my eating habits. I just started running. Just little things in my day that I can make a little bit better, and not focusing on not doing drinking, but focusing on what can I do to make my life better and making better habits to make my life better. And because, dude, in the beginning, it was all about distracting myself. How do I not pick up a drink? Right? Like that's the goal. And I think that you need that for a while. And then for me, I was like, how do I get my life better now? It's like, I got to stop focusing on not doing. Like I'm not just not trying to drink anymore. Now I'm trying to become better. So what's going on in my life? And it started with, I know it sounds kind of corny or cliche, but making my bed in the morning, like waking up, making my bed. I accomplished something in that morning.
It's a huge thing. There's actually a book by General McCraven, I believe, where it's called Make Your Bed If You Want to Save the World or something. It's he's a military guy, and he talks about how important it is to wake up and do something.
Yeah, I got it from and if you like to read, Jordan Peterson?
I don't think so.
Jordan Peterson has a book. It's called 12 Rules for Life. And that's kind of what he talks about. And that was one of his things. And I was like, what does that have to do with anything? Like, why does my bed, and I always question, why does my bed need to be made? Like, I'm going to get in it again. So like, who cares if the covers are good? But I changed my mindset to like, I need to accomplish something. So when I wake up in the morning, I want to do something that I feel like I've accomplished something and made something nice. So if I do that every morning before anything else could go wrong, I at least accomplished and made something nice. And then I try to do something hard mentally. So like whether it's a run in the morning or an ice bath, because getting in an ice bath, dude, is not, it seems like, but it's mentally, it's the hardest thing I'll do all day mentally, is getting myself into that thing.
What does it do for you, an ice bath?
Well, it gets your blood flowing first off. So it gets your blood going. But just, do you want to hop in a bathtub of ice cubes? Do you want to do it? Do you want to do it?
No.
No, right? That's the point. I don't either. But it's something that I'm going to do. That's probably the hardest thing I'm going to make myself do the rest of the day. So like everything else is now easier because I just made myself do something I did not want to do. And I did it. Right. So it's a mental thing of doing something hard in the morning, and not fit, doesn't have to be physical, just mentally. Like, what do I not want to do that is healthy? And an ice bath is good for it. It gets your blood flowing. It changes, so like I'll get a hot shower first and then jump into that. So like it's a shock to your system and I'm wired after it, but I don't want to do it, So like little things like that, like just trying to do things that make my life a little bit better instead of just not drinking. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm not going to lie. I don't think I'll do that because I think, oh man, just thinking about it right now, I'm getting chills.
Yeah, it hurts. It's like but like I said, it's like, I don't know what it is. It's like this fight that I have with myself. You know, that voice in your head that you have to tell yourself not to drink? Like, don't do this. Okay, that voice that's telling you, you can't do this. You can't get in there. It's like, no, yes, I can. It's like that mental battle. I'm defeating it first thing in the morning with something hard.
Gotcha.
After I make my bed.
Gotcha. So I guess one of my last questions is how is life treating you nowadays? And also, what do you do to maintain that? What's your I'm sorry, not what do you do to maintain it? What kind of advice would you have for people to maintain their sobriety or even get sober, then maintain their sobriety?
So for me, man, life is still a roller coaster. You know, the emotions are real, and you hear people talk all the time. My life's better. My life's this. It's not always like that. It's not always better. You're going to face situations that are not easy to deal with, that you don't want to deal with. The best part about sobriety is I can deal with it. And not only can I deal with it, I can help other people deal with the things that are going on. One of my biggest takeaways from being sober, my dad passed away last October, not the one that just passed, the one before. And I spoke at his funeral, right? I wouldn't have been able to do that had I been drinking. So no, life is not always happy, right? That's why that's in America, they say life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. You get to pursue happiness. You don't get to keep it. It's not always there, but you get to actually enjoy the good moments, but that comes with, the suffering as well. So for me, for somebody that is just getting sober, man, that's what you got to focus on. You got to focus on the why and not picking up that drink. That's the start. Go to AA meetings or NA meetings or go to meetings, do the steps. Be honest with yourself. And when I say be honest with yourself, it's not like telling on yourself all the time, but be honest with why you're doing the things that you're doing. Why am I actually doing this? And figure out what your real intention is behind your actions, right? Like for me, when I was drinking, it was more, it was this person's fault, or if I did this, it was because I wanted to, for example, dude, like I was very, like I told you earlier with women, I was bad to treated women terribly. And what I've realized is the way I would always justify cheating was that if I was with another girl in the moment, the way I was justifying it was that I don't want to hurt this girl's feelings that are in front of me. So like I was justifying it by being a good person to this person, right? So I had to figure out all of that. Like what was my intention behind everything that I was doing? And it was all very selfish, but also I was always a people pleaser. So like learning to say no, if that makes sense. So like I felt like if I was in that situation, I had to do it. But life's a roller coaster. It always will be. So no, it's not amazing. It's just I get to actually feel those amazing things and deal with the bad things when they arise. Again, I mean, advice to somebody that's dealing with that's dealing with it is just know that you're not alone. Obviously, like there's so many people out there that you can reach out to. Don't be afraid to reach out, and just know that life does get better. You can stop. Everybody can stop. It's just you just have to want to do it, and life can get better. I don't know about you, but my life's not always good.
No,
right?
definitely not.
But I feel like the good things are easier to even deal with because when I was drinking, and again, I don't know about you either, but I would justify a drink for a promotion, but I'd also justify the drink because I got fired.
Yep. Whether it was a good thing or a bad thing or just for the hell of it, I was, like you said, I was always drinking.
So you never really knew why. You never really got to enjoy or have to deal with the consequence of either or. Getting sober allows you to do that. You get to feel the promotion, but you also get to figure out what you did wrong and fix it. When you're constantly drinking and justifying it with a drink, it's like you're blaming the world almost for your problems. And you can't do that. You got to look inside. And don't worry about what Jim thinks of Bill, right? Worry about what Bill thinks of Bill.
Yeah.
And don't look at like everybody that they are constantly thinking about you. Like I remember going to sleep, dude. Like everybody's thinking about me. Like nobody's thinking about me. Nobody's worried about what I was doing, right? Like, but in my mind, the whole world was like, "Do you remember what McDowell was doing?" Da, 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 da. They're not, you know. And if they
Yeah.
are, then they have something that they have to deal with as well. Just focus on little things. Change the little things first, and bigger things happen. So just
Awesome.
change something small.
So you've also, let's talk about what you've been doing. You got a podcast going on. Let's talk a little bit about that. What is it? How's it happened? Where you listen to it?
So my podcast is called Dumbest Guy in the Room on YouTube and Facebook. I'm trying to get it up on Spotify and everything. Still learning it. I talk to anybody and everybody about anything. I kind of started it for the same reasons that you did, were to kind of help other people. But my way of looking at it is mostly I want to talk to people that have a different perception of reality than me, because I only know what I know. And if I always talk to people that have a similar vision of or perception of things, then I'm only like confirming my beliefs already. So the idea behind it is to figure out where I'm wrong in life and then try to make myself better. But also for listeners is to show people that even though we might have a different background or different perception, we're still humans living a human experience. And just because we believe in something different doesn't make us good or bad. Like it doesn't make the other person a bad person because they believe in something that you don't. It just makes, them different. And I think it's important that we talk about our similarities and differences just as much as, the media and everything is pushing out all these differences and making everybody hate each other. So my podcast is really to make people see that we're not different, that we do have so many similarities and differences aren't always bad. And one of my segments is a book review. We read a book, try to get the authors on, talk about the book. But mostly it's having guests on just to talk about whatever they want to talk about. And it's fun, dude. I love talking to people.
Yeah, no, it's fun. I like doing these interviews too. I get to learn all about different people, what they've been through, how they have hope, and that's my last question. I was asking everyone is, did you have any advice? But that's great what you're doing, giving people a voice.
That's it, man. It's anybody and everybody. I really like talking to just regular people too. Like I don't really focus on trying to get somebody big or anything like that. It's just people like you and I that no one hears from, that you can kind of see like, hey, we aren't that different. We might believe in these two different things, but we're still just humans having a human experience, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not out here to hurt you because of my opinion. It's just an opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm glad you had me on, dude. I think what you're doing is great. I think it'll help a lot of people.
I'm hoping so. That's all. So that's the main goal, is just to help people.
That's it, man. And yourself, bro. Don't leave that out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm doing this for myself, for a big part of it.
Yeah, so do I. And I think that's another thing that people need to realize is the word selfish is tossed around like a bad thing all the time, man. But there's a right way to be selfish. There's a right way to be selfish. Like doing my podcast is a selfish thing for me because I'm learning about other people. I get to talk to other people, hopefully make some money off it at some point. I don't know how to do that yet, but I'm working on it. So like, there's a right way to be selfish. I'm not doing it in a narcissistic way of taking advantage of people anymore. Like that's what I did as an alcoholic. I would be selfish in a way of taking advantage of you in some way and justify it. But there's a right way to be selfish. Like I can't help you unless I take care of myself. Like Jordan Peterson says in his book, he says, don't treat yourself like you would treat somebody else, because people are more willing to, like, he says, treat people the way that you would treat the person that you're in charge of taking care of. So like if your mom is sick, you're going to make sure that if you're taking care of her, you're making sure she's taking her medicine and doing all this. But if it was you, you might not take your medicine. because you don't care as much as you're not going to take care of yourself as much as you would your mom that's sick.
Yeah.
So his rule is to take care of yourself like you would somebody that you're in charge of taking care of, a loved one that you're in charge of taking care of. And that changed my whole perception of things, dude, because I wouldn't take care of myself. I'd always push myself off to take care of somebody else. And I learned that it's okay to be selfish, because if I don't stay as healthy as possible, I won't be around long enough to even help my kids the way I want to help them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that, and that's another thing for listeners is, it's okay to be selfish in the right way. You just got to learn why you're being selfish.
Exactly. The last thing I'm going to say is the Dalai Lama. He says that there's a such thing as wise selfish, where it's, you're doing something to help yourself and make yourself feel better and lower your suffering, but you're helping other people at the same time.
That's exactly, yep. That's Buddhism, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm into all the different types of religions as well.
Me too. I've got the Quran, the Bible. I still need to get a copy of the Torah. I want to read all about different religions, because they all, in a way, say the same thing, which is be a good person. They have rules: don't kill, don't steal, don't cheat, don't murder, don't rob anyone. Well, that's the same thing as stealing. But yeah, that's the one thing I appreciate about the different religions, is they're all kind of pushing the same thing, which is be a good person.
That's it, buddy.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
Come.
And if you look at some of the great philosophers, they're the same way. They have the same, it's all the same way. It's all how to live a good, better life.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't call myself any specific religion, because I don't know if I believe in organized religion after growing up Catholic, but all the fundamentals and things in those books, man, I don't care if you want to call yourself Christian, Buddhist. If you follow those books, you have a shot at living a better life.
Yeah, absolutely. So my last question to you is, did you have anything you want to throw in or add?
I mean, I appreciate you having me on. Check out my podcast again, the Dumbest Guy in the Room podcast. I've been around probably the same amount as you, but not even close to your episode numbers you're putting up there. But keep doing your thing, brother. I think this is great, and I think, like I said, you're going to help a lot of people for the right reasons. So I appreciate you having me on.
I really appreciate your kind words, and that's all I want to do, is help other people. So for everyone watching and listening, I hope that you like what you heard and saw. And if you did, go below, give us a subscription. You'll see when we upload new videos and stuff. Also give us a like. We're also available on Reddit, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. So check us out on those platforms. And we're also on Facebook, where we have a lot of stuff going on in the group and the Facebook page. So that's all I got for today. And I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Take care.
Peace.